of Nigeria. And each one of these core values are very important because as Nigerians, that is how we're supposed to be identified, or that's how we should be identified. A lot of things have gone wrong in the last how many years, we're redefining ourselves, but as opposed to what the Constitution is saying we are or we should be. But yes, I'll remind us again of what the Constitution tells us to be or who a Nigerian is. You are supposed to be disciplined, you are a person of integrity, you are patriotic, you should I say practice dignity of labor, or you uphold dignity of labor, self-reliance, you are socially just, and you are religiously tolerant. Even if some of these things are not evident in our day-to-day lives, but that is the reason we have it right here on radio every Wednesday, so that we get to remind ourselves that, you know what, a certain narrative is being pushed out there, but we are reminding us that this is who we are. So while those people out there, continue to push those narratives, we as Nigerians will push the narrative of who we are and what we ought to be and who we should be identified as. Now, I'll leave Kamal to tell us what self-reliance is, just to refresh our minds on the conversations we've been having.
All right. Thank you very much, Martha. And yeah, we've been having this conversation for quite some time. And just as I usually say, it's never too late, never too much, actually, especially in the situation we find ourselves today. Economically, a lot of things are deteriorating, like everything is going down south. And our lack of, or our lack of self-reliance is being amplified at this point, because if you notice, a lot of Nigerians keep on complaining. Yeah, it's enough to complain truly, because economically a lot of things are going down south. But for how long will we keep on complaining about this situation that we find ourselves in, right? For how long can't we find the solutions within? Because I have seen, right, that in a lot of citizens there are great potentials that can actually be utilized to help us bounce back our GDP, our economy. But everybody just sits and folds his hand and wait for the next person or the government to make sure that things go right. Who taught us this? Because as Nigerians, this is not how we are meant to be identified, right? It's boldly written in our Constitution, Chapter 2, Section 23, that as a Nigerian, you have to uphold certain core values, one of which is actually the self-reliance, which is imperative, especially due to the fact that Nigerians right now depend on government for everything. We have mentioned over and over, we have seen economies that have prospered just because of their citizens being self-reliant. I won't get tired to mention the Asian economy. We've seen India, we've seen China, we've seen Japan. Everybody doing great things, right? Because nobody sits and watch and wait for the government. By so doing, they are creating businesses, they are creating individuals that are reliant on their self and not importations, not anybody coming to drive their economy. By so doing, their economy is robust, because while the government is doing what they ought to do, the citizens are also injecting their own little input, which makes it very, very robust. Now, self-reliance isn't just over dependence on one's ability. Yes, it's reliance on one's own powers and resources rather than those of others. Dependence on yourself and relying less. Now, stress on less
on people,
on others, right? So by so doing, you would see that since we live in a society, we do not need this. We can't say entirely we don't need the service of others, because, in all honesty, there are people who have skills that you do not possess, right? You want to maybe your sockaway is filled up. You would definitely need somebody to come and help you do that, because you're not an expert in that field. By so doing, we need other people, but not to say that little things that we can do for ourselves will rely on others. It's embarrassing when I talk about importation of products, and among the list of importation products, I'll be calling toothpick, paper, toothpick, matches. Do you understand? What are we doing as youth, right? What are we doing as citizens?
We just stick to the normal stone.
Exactly,
Slashing the stone
slashing
together
and owning, and we have our other counterpart countries. We have in Korea, Japan. We are using phones, project phones that some of their students in primary school have created. Yes, the Chinese phones, the so-called Chinese phones that we laugh at because the sounds are high and all of, is your child that is creating that kind of phone. We can also do same. I'm not saying it's just one-off thing, right? It's a build-up, and that's why it's important that we have these conversations. Yeah, of course, self-reliance have various benefits, among which you would see that it will make you brave, courageous, hardworking, skillful, and smart. Because once you're self-reliant, you wake something innate in you, right? To be courageous. You want to try things. While you try things, you would see that, okay, you've made one mistake or two. By so doing, you have developed your skill, right? You won't be making that mistake again. You become skillful in that front, and then smart. Now, things that would take you hours to do before, you would now know a better way to do it. And by so doing, you are more competent. You are now an authority in whatever field. Yes. Now you will see that will also eliminate laziness greatly. Of course. Right? You will not just be sitting and saying, as there's no food like this, so I don't know what we'll do again.
You swear for your country.
But then the soil in front of your house is rich. It can grow corn, agbado, yeah, it can grow just anything, right? Funny enough, yeah, as funny as it sounds. But yeah, that can be done. We can get food just because you decided not to be lazy. And then you see that not only to ourselves will be a subject to admiration to other nations. We have mentioned countries, just as we are seated here, that we admire so much because they aren't reliant on anybody. Right now, we saw it during the COVID 19, when economies were shut, when borders were shut. There were countries whose GDP was tripling. Do you know why? Because they were dependent on themselves. Right? And they created things that other countries sought for. They didn't just sit and say, as this thing is happening like this,
we were importing
face masks.
Face masks, is it nose masks?
Yeah, nose masks, face masks, yeah.
We were importing those things.
Yeah.
And it's because, and this self-reliance is not just about individuals. A government can learn to be self-reliant,
indeed,
to be dependent. See the country Niger Republic now.
Yeah.
We don't commend what they're doing right there. We don't commend disobeying your government. We don't recommend that in any way.
Yeah.
But you see that some of those things they're doing now, there's an effect to it.
Yeah.
There'll be a later effect.
Yeah.
They now understand what they have and what they give out to the Western world.
Indeed.
Right? The uranium, all of those natural materials, resources that they give out.
Indeed.
They now know these things. Now they are in their countries. They've been given a warning, you remember?
Yeah.
They said, okay, by this time, if this is not ended, these are the actions that will be taken to us.
Yeah.
Now, when they are abandoned from that community,
you
see that they will be left with themselves.
True.
What will happen now? If they are not reliant on themselves, they will suffer.
True.
Because all the things they will be getting from other communities, other countries, will be stopped.
True.
I remember, I think they said we cut our power supply from that country.
Yeah.
Right? So everything will be stopped if they are not reliant on themselves. And to prevent things like that, that's why as a country we need to be reliant.
Indeed.
You know, I was watching a documentary where a certain country, they were using the horn of cows and all those to make combs.
Yeah.
And these combs are very beautiful. Very beautiful combs. They don't break easily because you know the horn of cow is very strong. Yeah. And in this part of the country, we get it and throw.
Yeah.
You kill the cow, you throw away the horns. Everything is a material. For those developed countries, everything is a material. They don't just dispose it. They look for ways to develop it to something that can be sold to you and I.
Look at plastic, for instance.
Yes.
Before now, we'll drink water and throw
it away.
Not knowing the significant, causing pollution to our environment, right? And a lot degrading our soils when they seep through it. But in developed countries, because they they don't just sit and then wait for everything to be determined, individuals start thinking about how to melt and recycle, right?
Recycle.
And now we are taking heed from them. We can just use our head, our yeah,
Use
for
our head
head a
generous.
little. Yeah, I didn't want to sound too, but
Of course,
yeah,
but yes, we're getting to the point where we actually need to be dependent on ourselves. And one of the other advantages of being self-reliant is we would make Nigeria self-sufficient in food production and achieving food security. It still
indeed.
boils down to the point of import and
Yeah,
export. We'll be dependent on ourselves. We have lots and lots of food. We can grow lots of things. If we know how to export some of these things,
yeah,
we will even become richer. Think about it. You see, developed countries, when you travel out of Nigeria, you try to go and eat somewhere. The fufu and the egusi they
Yeah.
will give you, you'll buy for 1,500
Yeah.
in this country. You'll be buying it for as much as 20 to 30,000 for a
Indeed.
plate in a developed country.
Indeed.
Because the supply of what you use to provide it over there is short.
Yeah.
But we are not exporting.
And again, yeah, you know one thing Nigerians are ordering Nigerians to stop doing. People call your dog what you call it.
Of
There's
course.
no how you call your dog Bingo and then somebody will come and call him Max. It's his name, right? So basically, we underrate ours so much.
Yeah.
You'd see us condemning. I think one of the most successful things we've been able to argue so far is jollof rice.
Yes. we have it
Nigeria
right
jollof
there.
rice better than Ghana. But yeah, if we kind of build this pride when talking about our own, people out there would want to see or would want to have a feel of what
course.
it is we are producing.
Of
So
course.
basically, if we're able, what I'm saying is, yeah, there are certain what do they call it? Factories or industries that still, for instance, cocoa for beverages,
Yeah.
right? But we don't even celebrate ours so
You
much.
buy Milo.
Me
you buy a
personally,
brand.
yeah, personally, do you know my best brand of cornflakes? Nasco cornflakes. It's better than any brand out there.
But it's
I
it's
feel it's
Nigerian made.
Nigerian.
Yes.
But Nigerians will prefer to Cocoa Pops, Frosties, and
Please
not
don't
to
give
kill.
them free ads.
I'm
No.
sorry.
We
We won't
support Nigeria.
Yeah.
But yeah, of a truth, those things the Nigerian made actually taste better.
Yeah,
than
better.
the other
So
ones.
what do I mean?
We're so much in a hurry to lose our
Lose-
identity as
exactly.
Nigerians to something else. To the point where if something is foreign, that means you are the in thing. You know,
Yeah.
if you're now putting on Gucci, you're not putting on all those big brands,
Yeah.
those top brands, you are not a happening person.
Yeah.
This is what happens. And you know, we used the example of one of the celebrities one time. I was watching a video where they asked her, "What are you putting on?" And she says, "I'm putting on Alexander Wang, I'm putting on Victoria's Secret,
Yeah.
I'm putting on all the big brands." She called all of it.
Yeah.
And then her dress was a Nigerian made. It was a ready-to-wear company.
Oh,
and they say,
wow.
"Your dress, what are you putting on?" And she goes, "I don't want to give the girl free publicity, but you
Wow.
just gave Alexander Wang free publicity."
So you can
And she's
imagine.
not a Nigerian. She's not Nigerian. But you're putting on a Nigerian made, and you are not proud to. I don't want to say you are not proud to say it.
Yeah.
You don't want to give free publicity to
Yeah.
that. You have automatically made whatever it is you announce more superior to yours.
Indeed.
Right?
Indeed.
And when we start to wear what we produce with so much pride,
Yeah.
we will start exporting some of these things. A time will come where the normal Iru and Buba a Nigerian will wear on a normal day, and people will say, this one is a mama or a papa or whatever it is. We're looking forward to a time where people will now adopt it
Yeah.
as something they want to export from here.
Yeah.
Oh, we're looking for 100 Iru and Buba. We need to wear it in the UK and all of that. But we don't do it. We don't do it.
Indeed.
We don't export it right
Indeed.
there because I feel like we have not put it so much. Like you said, it's what you call your dog. That's what everybody will call it.
Yeah.
So if you have placed your country in such a place,
Yeah.
and you have placed the produces or the proceeds or whatever it is
Yeah.
your country produces, you have placed it on the map in a very good place.
Indeed.
Now, when somebody wants to address that, he doesn't address it as just any product.
True.
He or she will address it just as you have addressed
Exactly.
it. You know, and you've taken the market, that market, forward.
Similar.
You've given it another level.
Yeah.
So, as self-reliant people, we need to think about how to promote ourselves as Nigerian. That's why we talk about these core values
Yeah.
every other day. Because if we don't, we have an image of course, in the
Yeah.
last how many weeks, I can't tell you how many countries are depriving Nigerians of passports, of
Yeah.
visas, and all of that. You know, we have an image there. It's there. It's
Yeah.
there already. But what can we do to ensure that that narrative is not constantly pushed out there?
True.
So when you see a true Nigerian, you don't say the person is faking it.
True.
But when you see someone that is loyal, you see someone that is patriotic, you see someone that is reliant, you say, oh, this is a Nigerian. Nigerian people, they are self-reliant people. Sure. And we have exhibited this in many countries as well. You see a Nigerian working 4 to 5 jobs outside the country because they don't want to, beg.
Yeah.
Other people can resort to begging. But you see a Nigerian who rather work 5 jobs to be able to provide for his or herself. But because we have not pushed that narrative of who we are, people say we come over there to beg or to leash.
True.
But we are actually contributing to the growth of the economy of that country.
Agreed.
So you see that when you are self-reliant, you are fully aware of who you are. And when you are fully aware of who you are, people cannot take you for granted as a person and then as a country.
So all truth, actually, if you take a look at it, and a buoyant example of we being self-reliant and how it has reflected on us positively, we've mentioned over and over. It's our music industry.
Of course.
We are admired, right? And it has brought prosperity to individuals and our society,
Of
basically.
course.
They look at Nigerian musicians, want to give us an opportunity because we have prospered in this line, like, greatly. So, yeah, just as you would say, for everything that has benefits, there are also consequences. Right?
And yes, we'll be talking about the consequence of lack of self-reliance. So you want to stay tuned. You don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back. Just enjoy this one. And yes, keep listening.
Crack your ribs and banter till you tire.
I can tell you got big energy.
The Midday Extra is a mix of fun, entertainment, and sick jokes to keep you jiggy all day.
They'll do fine makeup. They'll even wear Fanta.
Join Matha every weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Eagles 102.3 FM for the Midday Extra Show. Peace out.
All right, welcome back. 35 minutes, and we have less than 20 to be out of this hour, 25 approximately. And yes, we have been talking about the national core values and in particular, self-reliance. Like Kamal said, Mata always says whatever has an advantage, of course, has a disadvantage. And now we're talking about the consequences of lack of self-reliance. Now, a lot of people might want to be in denial saying, you know what, there are no consequences. It's the country's fault. It's the government. All of that, please. Just let it go. Let it go. Now, and it's time for you to, like the song said, take a bow and now decide what you want to do. Just like you're hungry and there's nobody gives you food, there's nobody to give you food. The normal thing you do would be to think of how to feed yourself or feed your family. Like he said, you have that little garden in front of your house. The soil is very fertile and can grow you something. Grow it there. Just look for an alternative means. No matter how small it is, start something at least. And now we're talking about the consequence. If you decide to fold your arms and do nothing. The first is you'll be exploited by those you depend on. Now, as a Nigerian, right, as Nigerians, who do we depend on? I don't want to sound sarcastic, but we depend on a lot of people for a lot of things. You know, like he said, you are importing toothpick. You are importing matches. Maybe rubber ring safe. I don't know. We're importing almost all these things from different countries. We'll be exploited. Like I said, when you have something and you don't know the value of that thing and you don't decide to do something with what you have, when someone else finds it, they will hope that you don't know the value of that thing. And they'll keep using it. You won't know. It's just like I was talking about one time when this whole statement of purpose was not a thing yet. When you want to travel outside Nigeria and you had an admission, they'll tell you, write a statement of purpose and all of that. Before this thing became a thing in this country, I was writing it for free.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody told me they were collecting money for this thing.
Yeah.
I was writing it for free. 5 people, you write for 5 people because they are your friend. You keep writing and writing. Nobody told me they were collecting money. One day, I saw someone charging 15,000 for one page.
Wow.
15 whole thousand for one page. I didn't realize. So then I realized, oh, these people knew that I did not know the value of what I could do or what I had. And that's why they were always coming to me. I felt like it was because, this girl is good.
Okay.
So if she doesn't write it for you, nobody can write it.
Yeah.
In my head, that was what was happening.
Yeah.
You know, she's good, that's why. And I'm like, I'm even telling myself, I'm actually good at this thing.
Yeah.
People keep coming to me for it. But it's because I don't even know the value of what I had.
Indeed.
Because if I was charging, you would not come to me directly.
Yeah.
You would decide to go to somebody else because you feel that, oh, that person is charging this amount of money. That person must be a professional. You'd go right there. But because I didn't know that, I was always being exploited.
Yeah.
And that's what happens as a country. When you don't know the value of what you have, and when you are not reliant, and when you don't, and you know, reliance comes from discovering yourself as a person and as a country.
Yeah.
So when you don't know these things, somebody will exploit you.
Yeah.
Now, what? Oil.
Yeah.
Look at it was. I'm so ashamed to say this, but I discovered not too long ago that we had about over 16 materials from crude oil. You know, in my mind, it was just fuel.
We waste some of them.
We
but
waste
don't
some
know
of them
what to
because
do
we
with
don't
it.
know what it is. You see, so these people keep collecting it. They bring it. You want to refine
Yeah,
it.
we'll just give you one product.
Yeah,
out
we'll
of-
give you one product and we'll still pay
Yeah.
for it because we don't know. We were exploited as a people.
Yeah.
Do you understand that? So now I feel like we have come to the knowledge of what we're losing as a people, taking that outside. Although I don't think we've fully come to the knowledge, because if we have fully come to that understanding, then we would have refineries working right now, because we don't want to take it out and people taking the other materials or the other components of crude oil from us. But I believe that we are working towards, or we have a plan. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Gradually, we will get there. But this is one of the consequences of lack of self-reliance.
Yeah.
We will be exploited by people, you know, that we depend on.
Yeah.
Let's hear you, Joma.
Another consequence of lack of self-reliance is you'll be relegated behind those more prosperous than you.
Okay.
In other words, they'll make you feel inferior to
Of
them.
course.
I heard of a story of an Oba, was it?
Okay.
That as he walks, you know how when they dress, they wear these big abadas and stuff. So they have like 10 people, say, behind them carrying their clothes so it doesn't touch the floor.
Of course.
Right? As they're the big men of the society and stuff like that. So I feel like as a self-reliant person, you should be you should learn to accept competition in your life, because competition drives innovation.
Yes, excellence.
It gives you more ideas on how to bring out a lot of like results in your life as a self-reliant person. Yeah.
Basically it. So we're talking about relegated behind by those more prosperous than them. Come on, can you throw more light on that as well?
Sure. So basically, when we've seen international conferences, right, where people sit on a table and then they are talking, a lot of nations don't even get a shot
To talk.
right? A lot of times, even in their arrangement, who sits next to
Yes.
who, right? It's basically bringing who they feel is worthy, right, of this kind of thing. So it's actually from lack of self-reliance. The respect that will be accorded to you when you go into such occasions and all of that is highly reliant on what you can bring to the table. If you don't bring anything to the table, a lot of times they leave you. Even with us Africans, the only reason why we are still part of a lot of these conversations is because God have bestowed us with these raw materials.
Of course.
Just imagine we don't have the raw materials.
So
Some they will not even invite us.
So bad.
In all honesty,
So bad.
because what are you bringing? No,
Yeah.
truly, what are you
What
bringing to the table? Because we haven't exemplified that self-reliance, that we can be innovative,
Of
that
course.
we can refine. We haven't shown that we are not a production continent,
Yes.
right? That's because we have decided, you know what, we'll be reliant on these people. And then now, even with our raw materials, they come and then they make you feel like, okay,
This is not just
just
that you are
this.
given.
But in all honesty, without that, just you can't do
can't-
anything. So we need to start asking ourselves questions. We need to get innovative, and with innovations, there's bound to be failure.
Of course.
We need to take that leap of faith, leap forward, and try to start. Now, from bicycle, now with the rich keke and car. You
And
understand?
yes, it's very
Yeah.
important because we have a lot.
Indeed.
But we don't know that we have a lot.
In all honesty.
You relegate Nigerians. Imagine someone will come and say, "I'm giving out visas to every other country but Nigeria."
Nigeria.
I was watching.
that.
I was watching the screening.
Yeah.
Dr. Bosun. Did you watch his own
Yeah,
screening?
yeah.
Where he said he went to get a Chinese visa.
Yeah.
When he got there, they said, "Oh, it will take 2 days to
Yeah.
process the visa and all of that." And he said, "Okay, no problem. You need a statement of account.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, all my businesses are domiciled in Nigeria, so I need to get it from Nigeria." Immediately they heard the name Nigeria, they went on and saying it will take 2 weeks. I'm sorry, we need to do an extra check on you.
Oh, yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Very embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
And that's because of our track records, generally.
Yes.
Not necessarily his. But you'd see that there are other nations. Because we've been talking about Japan
Quickly.
a lot. Once they see it on your passport, they are thinking about what you can come and add to their nation.
Do you understand?
Do you understand? So, it's to my advantage that I'm having someone who is self-reliant, someone who is a critical thinker, someone who is a problem solver, and not just that, he's also obedient to the rule of law.
Yes.
So that seeps through. We can be those people too. Nigerians are smart people. Nothing against
course,
us. So
of course.
go out there. Nigerians are celebrated, right? Because content now, we are talking about the social media space. Instagram, Twitter. Without
dominating.
Nigerians, Twitter
It's
is
over.
boring. Do you get? Everybody
It's
knows
over.
this, right? And they are more than happy to have us skit makers, everything. We are actually all the ones. So why
Yes.
can't we be that in other aspects of our life?
It's high
too?
time we stood up to that.
Yeah, it's high
right there.
time.
Let's hear you, Elias. Can you highlight on one of the consequences of lack of self-reliance?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Speaking on politics and international relations, I think there's another consequence of not being self-reliant, and that's I think disregard among nations politically.
Okay.
Yeah, before this issue with Niger, Burkina Faso, and other African countries,
Yeah.
I think African countries as a whole, African countries were disregarded by mostly European countries,
Of course.
American countries when it comes to having a voice in those important areas. I'd like to cite an example. Who remembers Queen Elizabeth's burial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they called all the African all the presidents to come.
Yeah.
That they now put all the African countries in one bus. That only the American president was allowed to come with his car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of this. That's part of this.
Disregard.
That's disrespect.
Yeah.
To the point that honestly, because our presidents, they didn't take it as disrespect. That was shocking to me, because I saw them in the buses. They were taking selfies with themselves.
It's actually one consequence.
They were taking. They were
One
so.
consequence.
That's a
They
very.
don't
very
even
big
see it
disrespect.
as an insult. If
Of
somebody
course it
doesn't
is.
feel insulted, how can you even tell the person that, do you know they just insulted you?
In all honesty, if you check it out, they don't see it that way. They don't have sorry or